that. You don't need to know how to draw a straight line. All you need to do is make some blobs. And that's really all painting is. Okay, now I've got a large round brush, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do the distant trees. I'm going to start with the darker ones on top. And I'm just going to put in some color here. Just a little color. And then I'm going to take the lighter trees on the bottom, and they're going to melt together. And this is the far distance. So I got the lighter color here, the darker colors on top. I'm not going to worry about every single little twig out there. I'm just doing blobs. I'm just going to do a shape, and this color is my blue mixture, which is ultramarine blue and a little bit of alizarin crimson and a little bit of sepia. Okay, now I'm gonna, there's in the far distance there's some grasses here, and the grasses are this beautiful amber looking color. I took my orange color from before and I just added a little more sepia to it to get this color. And I'm just gonna dot the horizon here. I'm gonna leave these white spaces in here because it makes your sketch a little less heavy. It gives it a little breathing room, so we're not going to cover the whole entire thing. Next, I'm going to work on the snow on top of the slough. This, by the way, is Boomerang Slough at Spears Woods. It's really beautiful, and it literally is in the shape of a boomerang. So right now, the white of your paper has to show through for your lightest colors. So I just took barely the blue of the sky, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just reference that this area right here is ice. And I'm not going to cover the whole entire thing. You probably almost can't even see this color on the video because it's so light, but that's okay. You just know that anything light and watercolors, you're gonna let the paper show through. And you see what's happening over here? This is a happy accident. This is when I've got my grass color here, and it's actually touching the trees, which were still wet, and we got a bloom effect there. Some people don't like blooms. I happen to love them because it actually does look like my little grasses in the background there. So I'm going to leave that just the way it is. That's pretty good. Now, for these trees back here, while this is still wet, I'm going to go back, I'm going to take the same dark color I had, that purplish brown mixture, and I'm just going to make a few blobs in the background. This is going to darken some sections up, and it's still a little wet, so it's going to kind of melt in there. You just want a little variation in the background. You don't want one solid color. And by just putting in here a few blobs, it's going to show the viewer that this is a group of trees. We don't know which tree is an individual tree. We don't really care. We're just trying to get an idea of what's going on here. So I added the little blobs in the background, and because this wasn't super wet, it didn't melt into one solid color. There's a couple bushes or something sticking out. So I'm going to take my sepia color here, and I'm going to just reference, there's a couple little bushes out here, dot, 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 and they're instant little weeds or bushes. Okay, now the part of the slough that wasn't frozen over was this beautiful green color. And what I like to do is I like to mix my palette colors and just make mud. It saves a lot of paints, and you don't want local color. Local color is direct color from your paints. It's a good idea to mix your colors so it's not such a local color. Right now for this green color I'm using a Viridian green, and I just mixed it with like the orange we had for the sky and some leftover blue here, and it's kind of got like a green cast to it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here. That's a perfect color. Perfect. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to paint where the slough was not frozen. And I'm going to wet my brush a little here. I'm going to mix a little more color, some palette mud. And I'm coming in here, and that's a really nice color. And I'm still not going to cover every single inch of my paper, because if I do that, it's just going to be too heavy. It's gonna look too heavy and dark. So I'm just suggesting the color in here. So I'm done with that. Now I'm going to take my larger round brush, and I'm going to make this bush here. There's like twigs, and I'm just going to make a blob, because right now it doesn't look too good, but later on we're going to go in and we're going to define this a little more. So we just add in some color, and we're going to leave it like that. There's also some grasses over here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some color down there. And I'm just going to, if that's too dark, I take my brush again, I add water. I'm just going to lighten that up a little bit. Okay. Okay. This is our basic background. I know it looks like a mess now, but we're going to come in here, we're going to do a little more details, and you'll see at the end it really comes together. So now that we've got our basic colors and our basic blobs, I'm going to just make a little detail. I'm going to start with the sky, and we're going to make our details coming down. So for here, I'm going to put a base on this cloud. And I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to put the same cloud color, which is, this is the blue and the brown mixed together. And I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to make a base for these clouds to give it a little bit of structure. There are some clouds over here and puffy little clouds, and the sky started to break, and we got a little color on the base there. So now that cloud doesn't look 2D. It looks three-dimensional. It looks like it's coming out a little. It's a little bit thicker, a little bit better here. Okay, now we're going to come in and I'm going to make a little definition here. I'm going to take my ultramarine blue, a little bit of brown. I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to define where the base of the grasses are, and I'm going to define where the ice, the snow-covered ice stops, and you can see that edge, and you can see this edge. You can't really see that too much, so I'm just going to go in here, and this is just the edge of where the ice is. Dot, dot, dot. We're not being too strict of what we're doing here. We're just going around. Now I'm going to add in a little more alizarin crimson, and I'm going to make the base of this bush here. We're going to put a little bit more color there. And I'm going to start to suggest that there's some weeds going on here. Color in here. Look at that alizarin crimson. And I'm not being too strict here either. I'm kind of just making scribbly lines. Anybody can do that. Dark color here, and there's some weeds over here, blah 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 blah, and I'm just suggesting stuff. You know, I'm not being real particular. We're not going to worry about it. This is a sketch. This is quick. When we're in the field, we're not going to have a lot of time, and so we just want to suggest what's going on. Might look. Okay, now we're going to work on these beautiful winter trees here. I've got my medium round brush, and I've got a dark blue. I've got even a little bit of Payne's gray and a sepia, and we're going to go in here, and I'm just going to make some branches, and as I go up, I'm kind of thinning it out. So I'm going thicker, and then as I go up, I'm kind of going a little bit thin, as I work my way up. Same with this one, sticking out here. Thick, thick, thick now. It's getting super thin, super thin. Go to the top. I'm gonna just darken that up a bit while it's still wet. And now here are the grasses. So I'm doing just dots with the trees because you can't see the whole base of the trunk. So we're just gonna suggest that there's some reeds here. That's negative painting. I'm kind of working around the grasses and suggesting that something's going on there. I'm not particularly worried about every single branch that's coming off here because I just want to have fun. I want to suggest what the tree looks like, but a smaller one, and I'm just going to come in here and suggest some of these branches. And pretty soon I'm going to change my brush, and I'm going to use a little bit of a thinner brush. But these bottom branches, we're going to go ahead and be pretty thick.